Hey guys, if you like this video, there's a playlist for it along with playlists for pretty much everything I've done. A wealth of knowledge stacked on my channel. Please come check it out. Click on my name on YouTube and subscribe. Help me reach 100,000 subscribers. Thank you very much. Come on, Tiny Boaters, how are you? I finally have an answer to the most asked question that I ever get. I got a boat. I really want to do this project. Where do I start? The answer is the Transom. It is, and why? The more I restore these older boats and I rip out the Transom, no matter what the brand of the boat is, from anything from low to tracker to smoker craft that I stripped out, likely to any other boat in that era, they're all treated plywood transoms. Disturbing now that we know better, but I really think just back in that era it was best practice. That means there's a 90% chance that your transom, if you have an older aluminum boat, is probably treated and it probably has some damage and corrosion there. And you want to fix that as soon as possible, or you just don't want to do anything else to your boat. Just use that thing until it breaks the way it is. It's a step-by-step video, very lengthy, but it's much more in-depth of how I did everything, how I replicated. Because these transoms, they're 1.5-inch thick plywood, and I don't just have access to 1.5-inch thick plywood running around. So this is the steps that I went through, what I got. Talk about some other materials that you can use, some other materials from my other boat building associates. They highly recommend that are very useful. I have that at the end of the video if you want to check out that part. And but right here, we're gonna get right into this. Check this out. It's here. And now I'm gonna take off this and this, and then eventually the motor. See how this is all cracked up in there, and you put a piece of wood to compensate for the crack, so that the transom is jacked. It really is badly jacked, and so I'm just gonna do whatever I gotta do there. You don't use any treated wood on your boat. See this? I don't know if you can see that. There, see that hole? Hold on, see that hole right there? That is oxidization, pitting, holes, hole. Oh man, really the stuff we're gonna have to do to repair that is going to suck. It is not going to be fun at all. This is the worst transom I've ever seen. It's just utterly terrible. For those of you who are possibly contemplating using treated plywood anyways because you think it still has benefits, just be known that it is not. Treated plywood is nothing but ferrated plywood, which is what this happened. This, and if you noticed the other video, this compressed. This is not broken. It literally went from 1.5 inches to 1 inch. Or almost, yeah. So it compressed in. It just gave out, smushed in, deflated, just imploded. It sucks. It rotted anyways, because it really isn't meant to last a long time. It just sucks. And then plus it's heavier than shit. It really is, because it's literally soaked in wood. Wood soaked in chemical that seeps into the wood, and then it repels moisture, but at the cost of contaminating aluminum. So I'm going to use this sheet. Hopefully it's not terribly busted. It's got stupid pins here. I'm going to get these pins out. I'm going to take this sheet off and hope that it's not busted like the rest of the transom, but we're going to use this regardless one way or another to trace the outline for the new transom board. And now that it's off, you can see that it has some corrosion too. I don't know if it's as bad as the absolute back of it. Yeah, there's pieces eaten up. So options for this boat, the transom. Don't want to go to a full 2x12 transom because I can't find 2x12. And so any deviation off of that's a problem. It's like a 2x14 actually that slides in there. So the plan is to make a plywood transom, but I could go Kusa board or some other sort of synthetic composite transom, but that will cost me an arm and a leg just to get enough of the material to do it. And so this was from Lowe's, 4x8 sheet, 3/4 inch thick on the dot, no weird off by a millimeter, 3/4 inches on the dot. So I'm going to trace the old transom minus the 4-inch deficit to convert this to a 16-inch so I can till it. Obviously we cut it again, and then we are going to screw it, and then we are going to resin coat it. We are not going to just do the simple oil-based enamel. I want to show you guys something different. I want to show you guys the ultimate way to really preserve wood to last forever, because I want this transom to actually last. We can still use it. Let's measure this transom, that way we'll get the absolute drop. So that's 21. Between 16 and 17 inches, we got to make the mark. Conveniently have 8 other boats in my yard, so 15. Okay. Yeah, 15. So I'm gonna cut mine right at 16. Step 1 complete. Step 2, replicate. Well, that happened. Now time to see where they join. Okay, perfect holes. Pretty good. This is marine epoxy. Okay. There is a 2:1 ratio. So we are going to go ahead and we are using these measuring cups. So I have a bunch of these measuring cups from lure making. I'm gonna mix this for like a good minute. Just should have done was put these on a little bit ago, but better late than never. You do want latex gloves. You do not want that on there. It's not really terrible for your hands, but it's not good for your hands, and it doesn't like to come off. That's fine. Just this little remaining stuff right here, we're just gonna get a Q-tip and run it in all these little holes that we made. So this has been drying for a long time. Some of it's actually still tacky. Alright. We're pretty good to go. We're going to move forward with installing it. Anything on the top that I feel might be exposed, we'll check that out. The bottom cured, everything cured. Okay, so... Alright, so... This is not too badly... It looks gross, but it's really cosmetically very, very gross. But structurally, it's still intact fairly well. It's not so terrible that there are gross holes just eating away as I scrub from the deal. There's only a few small finite spots that I can actually see bleeding through here, here, and over there, a few right here and here. Not very many. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just use this. These are the Muggy Weld Super Alloy 1. These are 350 degree melting temperature. They melt almost instantly. Okay, not the 600 to 700 melting temperature that we've been used to. I'm not going to do those right now. And a main reason for that is, for one, constant holding of the temperature, and that temperature takes away from the temperament of the actual aluminum. And two, I'm just filling in pits with alloy. Okay. I'm just giving it a surface so there's no more structural problems with it. So it's adding a little bit to the strength, but it's really to fill in, because the alloy, if I fill these in with epoxy is not going to flex and heat and do everything the same way aluminum will, but the alloy will. It'll bend and flex and heat and shrink as temperature declines and increases with here. It's the best ways. It's metal, filling metal with metal. Unfortunately, this stuff does corrode faster than aluminum ever will. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint over this backside before we slide the actual transom in. And then we're going to cut it. Applying the flux, and what the flux does is it takes any contaminants and it just kicks them out of the door. That's what it's good for. Okay, and these are Muggy Weld 350 degree temperature, like at a melting point, brazing rods. They are covered in the flux, so the stuff you're seeing kind of smoking and burning, that's the flux. So it's liquid that when you ignite it, I guess it turns acidic, and it just really just gets rid of any contaminants in the section. So you'll start seeing, you know, that's not anything bad happening to the aluminum, that's just the flux doing its job. And as the flux starts to burn like that, then that's a good indicator that it's at good melting temperature for that. And so I'm just literally spreading it in there and just kind of circling over the whole, with the whole rod, and filling up as much as I can. Alright, so now the aluminum's cool. This stuff has had a time to cure and dry. So we're going to go ahead and grind this down. We've got a grinding disc. Obviously, we can't slide the transom into that plate if the plate is all bumpy and rocky with all the brazing flux. So we have to sand this stuff flat. And that's what we're doing now with the grinding disc. Not a cutting disc, a grinding disc. This came out pretty good, considering. So all these areas flat here are where the metal really took well. In some spots, so it took well for most of the area. There's a good 10 to 50% of it where it didn't take and it came out, and then areas where I couldn't really get into with a grinder or effectively with the welds, you know, with a brazing stick, without it causing a lot of chaos, and then possibly messing with the rubber sealant here between the actual frames. So didn't want to mess with that. Stopped very over here. Stuck JB Marine Weld, the weld stick. That's the best stuff that you're going to be able to use for an application like this, aside from, you know, actual brazing alloy. I can't think of anything else. That's the second best stuff. Right now, what I need to do is just wedge between the transom and the wood, and it will do that, and it will hold for a while, and then hopefully when I paint over it, that will hold. One thing that would have maybe at least helped this, because I've seen this, where there is the worst piece of wood that you could ever imaginably put inside a transom, but the transom was fairly okay because it was painted. Now, there's a good chance that if they just took the time to do diligence to paint the backside of the transom, that it might not have taken such a bad hit. The paint would have at least added some sort of barrier between the copper contaminants and the wood and the aluminum. We're gonna use self-etching primer, which is what we've been known for a while to stick to aluminum to vest, and then we're going to paint it with oil-based protective enamel, spray enamel, and then we're ready to drop in the transom. See this all now, and you can just imagine this piece cut out, because this piece is getting cut out, so it's not even going to be there. So that all this pitting up here doesn't count. But you can see for the rest of it, where it got fixed, how well it got fixed, and it's pretty darn good, considering how utterly terrible it was. Okay, so now we took the initial faceplate that we took off the transom. This is just a very thin aluminum faceplate. Well, actually, it's not too thin. It's about 0.67 inch thick. This is meant to protect the wood, okay? So if you just twist and twist, over time the wood will crack and corrode, but if you twist against a piece protecting it, the wood's less likely to crack and erode. Stainless steel Weathermax hardware from Lowe's. Just there's a little stainless steel section. Okay, we're using this clear RTV silicone adhesive sealant from just Harbor Freight, just packing the holes here. And it will obviously make a seal, but what I'm really going for is re-preservation of the holes, making sure that those are good and that those don't cause problems or rot. And I'm just going to just wiggle it through and wiggle it around in that area so it's good. I'll do the same thing for these. Push through. Okay, now since I distorted the transom's height and I can't reuse the top cover again, I have to make my own top cover. And since I can't find a piece of aluminum that will cover it like the right way, I have to kind of join two pieces together. So this is my process of how I did it, how I bent the aluminum around, how I put it in place, and how I matted two pieces of it together to make the lining for the transom. This is 1/16 angled, and then I use 3/4 angled. You'll see here in a second. Yep. Perfect. Perfect fucking height. And so that's how I did this here. I went to Lowe's and I asked, what is the strongest plywood you have? What is it? And they pointed to me, oak. That's the strongest plywood we have. And I was like, okay, well, I'm getting it. And then later on, I found out through associates and a few other, people following my page telling me that is inevitably going to fail. One person said it was because the veneers between the oak plies are not strong at all and that it's countertop wood and that it'll fail. And somebody else said that's not a big issue, but the fact that oak is just not very water resistant and it'll fail. I don't know ultimately how long the oak will last. I just knew that it was really strong, really hard to cut through, and I can't ever see that really breaking, and I resin coated the ever-living crap out of that transom, like everywhere. Inside the screw holes, everything. So, whether or not it fails, we'll see. I at least hope I can get a few years out of it. Most of my associates recommend just getting aluminum transoms, getting one welded. So that costs however much money it costs, but that thing will last forever. You can also look at Cusabor transoms, getting that 1.5 inch thick and the specific size you want. That might be real hard because they're kind of exclusive on shipping and they're really expensive on shipping. Carbon Core also makes very, very good products, and you can use their stuff for transom. I wish I would have actually done something with Carbon Core and got an 1.5 inch thick piece of their stuff to make this transom. That would have been like the ultimate transom. It would have never rotted. It would have just lasted forever. But those are also much better products to use than standard plywood. But regular fur-rated plywood is going to do fine. I mean, an 1.5 inch thick fur-rated plywood, that's strong. That is really strong, and all the plies are made to be strong together. There's no veneer plies in there. And so really, if you resin coat that with either 2-part epoxy or polyester resin, that's gonna last you a really long time. I can't really see that thing ever going down. It's going to be nice. So think about that. Ultimately, I would be really, really wary of the transom first. I know they're a pain to rip apart. I know, like, you look at it and you be like, what the heck is all this? And you gotta take all these parts off to get it out, but it's worth it to replace it. Okay, then you don't have to worry about overall transom failure. You don't have to worry about what if. You don't have to worry about your motor just breaking off. You don't have to worry about flexing, wondering if your hull's gonna fail. Your hull is gonna fail one day, and that's all very good stuff to worry about. All right, I hope this video helped you guys. All right, I'll see you guys later.